Rompin' Round Olympic National Park. Olympic National Park is located on the most northwestern tip of Washington state. It has 4 distinct regions: alpine landscapes, forests of the drier east side, one of the world's largest temperate rainforests, and where we explored, the rugged Pacific coastline. Olympic holds 73 miles of the most primitive natural coastline in the lower 48 states. On certain sections of the trail that are impassable regardless of tide, we had to climb into the headlands at higher elevation to bypass coastal cliffs. Tides varied throughout the day on roughly an 8-hour schedule between high and low. We needed to keep a close eye on when we would think we would arrive at certain locations to be able to traverse the shore, else risking getting stuck waiting for water to recede. The Olympic National Park coastline is divided into a southern and northern section, and we opted to hike the northern section starting at Rialto Beach, adjacent to the Mora campground, near the mouth of the Quileute River. The park as a whole spans a whopping 1,500 square miles. President Teddy Roosevelt originally designated the park as Mount Olympus National Monument on March 2, 1909. The monument was redesignated a national park by Congress and President FDR on June 29, 1938. Being in a new ecosystem on the first day, it is always a challenge to keep our footing while soaking in the picturesque rock formations just offshore, and along the shore as well, traversing some smooth, slick stone before passing through Hole in the Wall just 2 miles into the hike. With ocean on one side and greenery on the other, we saw a variety of different animal species on day 1. Coastal birds were seemingly everywhere, but it was particularly surprising to see such a density of the population of bald eagles as well. We missed the whale migration, unlike the West Coast Trail trip in 2023, but did end up seeing a sea otter on day 1. We camped at the Chilean Memorial, dedicated to the Chilean schooner W.J. Peary, which in 1920 carried a crew of 20 men, just 2 of whom survived a shipwreck where the hull of the ship was split in 2 by a brutal storm. For us, camp provided plenty of beachfront property on a soft sand bed. Sleep here would be easy. Temps reached 70 during the day and got down to 40 at night. Day 2 was a bit more substantial in mileage, as well as more remote, escaping the day hikers who entered at Rialto Beach. First mile was chunky boulders here, and finally get a little bit of a reprieve with some sand. Some nice views too. An early morning in the shade sometimes means slick rocks, which we quickly got accustomed to traversing. Got this nice waterfall here, giving us some fresh water. Been a shaded hike so far this morning. Probably in the 50s, nice and cool. Looking at the spires out in the ocean. Got the waterfall and the waves, birds chirping. Beautiful day. Some sections required rope aids to pass cliffs that were impassable at any tide, which ended up being steep Class 4 blood-pumping adventures. A neat aspect of these assisted climbs is that they were often built using scraps of littered rope washed up on shore from ships. At times, we had to make the decision about how to navigate the tides.
Get your shoes soaking wet if you can avoid it. Obviously, like, our shorts would get a little wet.
The two Alexes decided to take off their shoes and socks to meander around the edge in knee-deep ocean water. My plan to scale the wet rock didn't end up being as dry of an experience as I had hoped. So we just tried to go past this little curvature on high tide, and unfortunately for me, did not go as perfectly as planned. Got a little bit wet, kept the shoes and socks on. The other two boys went barefoot and had a little bit more success, I guess you could say, by keeping their shoes and socks dry. And they're keeping their socks off for the time being. Doing some beach traversing barefoot. Enjoying a beautiful day. Ascending into the headlands to bypass rocky ocean points, we experienced the prototypical Olympic ecosystem, lush, temperate rainforest. Kayastia Beach is a camp we passed along the way and contains an obelisk commemorating the shipwreck on January 2nd, 1903, of the Norwegian vessel dubbed Prince Arthur. Similar to the Chilean memorial, just 2 of the 20 men aboard survived. Rocky Beach at 7.6 miles in on day 2. Before lunch, found a nice shaded spot. Mist in the distance, a little bit of haze coming in. Soon, we would come upon a beached whale which had passed about 3 weeks prior. After our trip was complete, I contacted the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, who put me in touch with Jesse from Cascadia Research, an organization to document and learn from these occurrences. The gray whale migration in Washington began on April 2nd this year, and since then, 7 gray whales have been reported on shore in Washington state, sadly ahead of predicted pace. Most deaths were attributed to malnutrition from a challenging migration north, but 1 died of a killer whale attack, 1 entangled by a fisherman's net, and another collided with a vessel at sea. Biotoxin blooms, or red tides, are always a concern as well, as can occur in the gray whale breeding grounds of Mexico's Pacific coastline. The next 5 seconds may not be suitable for all viewers.
Fast.
A short bit more afternoon hiking, and we would soon arrive at camp. We had a steep climb up to our campsite through this ravine with a little running creek through it here. And we got Bolzer down there collecting wood for our campfire tonight. And we got a perfect collection operation here with a spigot made of wood. There was a significant amount of wind coming off the ocean, which made building a fire challenging, especially with saltwater logged timber from the coastline combined with kindling gathered from the moist headlands. Luckily, we got to camp early enough to experience a state of mind like none other, with snappy sounds of a crackling fire combined with the whooshing waves of the rising tide. We camped inland this night, captivated by our hard-earned fire overlooking the Pacific. Daytime temps reached 66, and at night dropped to 42. On day 3, we again got lucky with another unusually sunny Pacific Northwest glow. We hiked in parallel to Ozette Lake, the largest unaltered lake in Washington state, until we reached its estuary, the Ozette River. Starting the morning, we descended steeply from our campsite perched above the ocean, down to the beach and tide pools below. The pools were tricky to traverse at times, They were filled with marine life, and it was entertaining to see purple naked shore crabs scurrying off with each of our steps, along with giant green anemone opening their tentacles like flower petals in the waves. Remnant sea stacks continued to make us wonder just what the jagged ocean floor might look like a couple hundred feet out from shore. Cruiser-packed sand beach miles this morning made the time tick by quickly. It was obvious that when we arrived at Sand Point, we would have to stop there for breakfast. A quick climb to the top gained us a 360-degree view of its peninsula. During breakfast, we were lucky enough to catch a glimpse of a 22-degree halo around the sun, commonly caused by ice crystals suspended in cirrus or stratocirrus clouds. By far, this was my favorite breakfast spot of 2025. We had 2 visitors swing by during breakfast as well. The suspended mist made everything lush, humidified air and thriving foliage. At times we passed by what looked like neon green algae. Some sections of trail had softball-sized boulders for footing, and there were plenty of massive downed trees that presented as obstacles along the way too, some easier than others. We came across another set of deer just before lunch. Lunch was just north of Sawaya Island, where we found respite in the shade near an unnamed creek. Hiking during low tide allowed us some leisurely miles between lunch and camp. The upcoming headland was impassable, so we embarked on our rope course journey ascending to top out. We would soon find ourselves at the crux of the trip, the Ozette River crossing. No tide chart would help us here. It was a matter of looking and feeling for the safest spot to cross, risking waterlogged gear and equipment, and more importantly, being swept into the ocean. With water up to our waistlines, even our strongest efforts were made to look weak, treading through water which felt as heavy as mud. Combined with the current, there was no easy way but through. We came out wet from the belly button down, but smiling to know that our camp was just on the other side of this river crossing. And with our recently honed fire-building skills and stick-to-itiveness, we had the chance to enjoy another oceanside fire. From our campsite, we watched 2 hikers going the opposite direction of us, fording the 50-foot river at supper time just before dark.
Oh, he's stuck. He's stuck where I got stuck.
We camped among the coastal pines of the estuary of the Ozette River and the Pacific Ocean. Warmth from the fire was welcome, even though night temps only got down to 50, while daytime temperatures peaked at 69. Rise and shine early on day 4. We had to catch our shuttle at Shai Shai Beach, our northernmost destination, before returning back to our starting point to enjoy one more night in the wilderness. On day 4, we woke up to a little bit of a damp morning. Rained throughout the night for a little bit, but that's what you get in the Pacific Northwest. We left the Ozette River and Lake area, which has a documented civilization back 2,000 years ago, including a whole village engulfed by a mudslide 300 years ago. Shortly after starting our hike that morning, we came across a second beached animal, this time a sea lion, a more recent death. The next 10 seconds may not be suitable for all viewers.
Straight off. Seems to be fortress of some sort.
Luckily, we were able to see plenty of live wildlife along the way, including multiple species of birds. Likely the most special experience was coming across a bay full of Pacific harbor seals just before Flattery Rocks National Wildlife Refuge. National wildlife refuges are protected areas of land and water managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to protect plant and animal resources and their habitats. Nationwide, there are over 570 refuges, 38 wetland management districts, and 5 marine national monuments. This ecosystem near the refuge is not only essential habitat, but utterly breathtaking to embrace as these landscapes show. With our early start that morning, it was still a bit chilly by breakfast time as we nestled into a cozy little cove. There were a few more rope ascents after that, bringing us into the headlands, where we were rewarded with memorable views overlooking the coastal waters. Vegetation in parts of the trail were quite overgrown, as the temperate rainforest provides a year-round growing season for a variety of plant species. The trail conditions on this trip were otherwise smooth. However, climbing over deadfall on trails across the U.S. is likely going to be a recurring theme, with recent budget cuts to the Department of the Interior. In any given national forest, there are commonly dozens of trail maintenance crew members, and now these jobs have been cut to nil. Funding has also been cut from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the Department of Commerce, whose research helps us understand the cause of beached animals' deaths, as well as help remove the carcasses from the shorelines. Less funding means sparse research and a bottleneck to our understanding of the patterns of these species. Soapbox aside, eventually, we dropped back down for our last coastal hiking of the morning. Lunch at high tide just before heading into the forest to finish our hike. 2 miles in until we get to our shuttle. We kept up a quick pace that morning, which bought us some time for an afternoon siesta, as well as some souvenir scavenging on the beach. A short forested hiking section separated us from the northernmost point of the trip. The path was smooth, wide, but sloppy in some spots. We arrived at the Shai Shai Beach trailhead and hopped on the shuttle bus at 2 o'clock, and our driver Chris gave us a 90-minute history lesson of the area, dating back to 1977, when he was hitchhiking from San Francisco to the North Cascades, but was suggested to stop at Olympic National Park, where he fell in love with the area and has been ever since. A few fun facts he shared include that Olympic National Park contains one of the largest road-free areas in the contiguous U.S., and that Cosmic Crisp apples were developed by Washington State University.
Would you like to sit in front?
We got back to our starting point at Rialto Beach and snagged some food and beverages stashed in our car before our last night on the coast. The birds near Rialto Beach were plentiful for the short 1.5-mile section back to Hole in the Wall. We would camp just beyond there for the night, but not before a bit of a rain shower crept in as we neared camp, providing an opportunity to sit back and slow down, taking in the last 12 hours in the Olympic wilderness before dusk. I of course went with something fruity and local. We camped among fallen tall timbers resting ashore, with a moody sky serving as a backdrop to the canvas that enthralled us that night. A few miles south, lights were visible from the unincorporated coastal community of La Push, the capital of the Quileute Indian Reservation. Temperatures that day ranged from 48 to 68. Our final day was jam-packed. We woke up on the beach and ended up sleeping in our own beds that night. Travel by foot, freeway, and flight. For one last time, we packed up our bear canisters just as we were getting used to our nights on the soft sand. 2 miles would bring us home. We savored our final taste of soaking in expansive ocean views and sounds of the whooshing waves. One last stop at the iconic hole in the wall, being lucky enough to find a day hiker to nab pictures of the crew. What a trip! Unforgettable views of the sea stacks, each with their own story, interspersed along the rugged coastline, with tide pools providing unique ecosystems along the way. Garski had an ace up his sleeve as he suggested a stop at Solduck Hot Springs to complete the journey until we made it back home to our loved ones, souvenirs and all.
Okay. Where did Daddy get this from?
Olympic.
Olympic. Yep. You ready? 1, 2, 3. What is it?
From the ocean.
Yeah.
Ocean. A crab.
Yeah, it's a crab.
Crab. And starfish.
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 Yeah.
How's the starfish glass now? Is it dead?
It's dead, yep.
Yeah.
You know what this is?
A seagull.
Sea urchin.
The ocean.
And that's another one, yep. You know what these are?
Shells.
Yeah. And some cool rocks.
Yeah.
Cool!
That's rock. Water. That's rock. And that crab.
Yep.
Crab. But Bobby, be careful, because that is glass. That's rabbit.